Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter. In Chicago Business Today, Big Blue. No other insurance company dominates a major city the way Blue Cross and Blue Shield does Chicago. The insurer has 66% market share in the metro area, according to a study by the American Medical Association. The company is getting bigger, and its expanding clout is pinching the profits of medical providers and drawing the ire of some business customers. Earlier, I sat down with Crain senior reporter Mike Colias to talk more about his story in this week's print edition of Crain's. Mike, thanks for being here.
Sure.
So Blue Cross has 2/3 of the market share in Chicago. How does this compare to other major cities?
It's the largest. According to this AMA study, now some people say the AMA might have that 66% might be a little on the high side, but clearly it's from the high 50s to that mid 60s range. And we looked at 20 other top major cities, and that's the biggest share that we could find.
So how did they get so big? What kind of competitive advantages do they have in order to win business?
Yeah, if you're a hospital, you can't afford to not be in their network. They really drive a hard bargain on hospital pricing. They get prices that are anywhere from 10 to 25% lower than the other insurance carriers are paying. So that gives them a much lower cost structure. They advertise a lot in this market. The Blue Cross brand nationally is really strong, and they're known for having pretty good customer service. So, all those factors really give them a lot of edges that their competitors don't have.
They've gotten bigger recently, right?
They have, through Unicare, which was the number 6 player in this market, close to 200,000 members, pulled out of Illinois late last year. They just said they couldn't compete. They essentially had an arrangement with Blue Cross, sending all their members to Blue Cross. You didn't have to go, but go to Blue Cross. They'll try to honor your rates, the rates you're paying now and your benefits. So it's about 180,000 new members. They didn't get all of that, but they got the lion's share of that. And the jury's still out on what's going to happen to those people and the rates. And we have talked to some groups who have just gotten the renewals from Blue Cross, and the rates went way up. And it's still unclear as to whether or not that's the case for most of these groups or not. I think that's where some of the concern comes in is, you see a competitor leave and then prices go up. That makes the markets less competitive, then prices go up. I think that's one red flag that some people, tend to look at.
Who else is mostly concerned about their dominant market share right now?
Well, the employers like the fact that Blue Cross can drive such a hard bargain with the hospitals because it can keep their costs down. I think the longer range concern that some of the employer groups might have is, if you have an insurance company that has the cost advantage that Blue Cross does, and it drives more competitors out of the market, there is research that shows that the less competition there is, the prices can go up, and I think that's the longer term concern for employers.
And what about for hospitals and medical providers?
Well, they're the ones that fight with Blue Cross on a sort of annual or biannual basis in terms of rates. Most of them, especially like a small standalone hospital, has a very little bargaining clout with Blue Cross. The physicians seem to have less of an issue with it. I think historically Blue Cross has tended to be maybe a little friendlier with physicians in terms of rates. They pay on time, that I think physicians feel like they don't have to monkey around with trying to get a claim paid as much with Blue Cross as with some of the others.
What about healthcare reform? Are we going to see this weaken Blue Cross's grip on this market?
Well, I think in terms of market share, probably not. I think they're concerned with some of the elements of reform, just like the rest of the industry. They're worried about this mandate that you have to have insurance. Well, if enough younger people don't go and get it, that could water down their pool. That you could have a sicker pool of patients, and that could hurt costs. But in terms of their presence in this market, I think it could bode pretty well because they already dominate the sort of small group and individual market, and I think that's where a lot of the growth is going to come.
So it could actually strengthen them?
It's possible. A lot of smaller insurers might have trouble competing. There's some rules around how much of your cost has to go to medical claims. Some smaller insurers might have trouble in that climate, and if more leave, market share could go to Blue Cross.
Okay, Mike. Well, big story this week. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. You can read more on Mike's story in this week's print edition of Crain's or on chicagobusiness.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.